Hello and welcome. I'm Karjan, and this is Let's Art Operation Blinking Mirror Edition. So I've got most of the art done. I just need to clean out all of that. There is a little bit more that bothers me with this one, with her back. It's still a bit too rounded right here. So I'm gonna fix that really quick, and then get to work on the trees. Just need to make sure that the lines are clean. It's not quite. There, that's a little better. Okay. Now I'm going to turn off all of the figures and start working on further refining these lines. I don't know why I accidentally created a new layer. I'm going to leave these lines a bit, well, and by a bit I mean quite a bit, thicker. And much more varied than the lines that I use to make up the people, the characters themselves. And that's just personal preference on my part. Having that variation in size. Size and shape, and mostly just focusing on getting rid of jagged edges and the like. And you can see that I'm leaving a lot of the sort of uncertainty edge in there. A lot of the squiggles and movement. It's just a bit of a personal preference thing. There's nothing really special about any singular piece. I'm just trying to make something that I like the look of. Nothing else. And I don't want the lines too thick, but I'm also not going to make them as thin as the other lines that I've done in most places, especially around edges. This also makes doing this a little quicker because I don't have to clean everything out as fully as I did with, say, Nina, or even Flick, or some of the squirrels. And in the end, I'm probably going to turn these lines a little bit probably going to turn these lines a little bit less than 100% opacity and rely on color to fix most of the vision problem. Trying to make it look like a jagged break right here, but it's not really turning out the way I want. I'm pretty sure that's because I'm being a little bit too rounded with my brush and my lines, but oh well. And also there should be more splinters in here. I'll try and indicate that with color when I get to that point. But with a lot of this, I'm just going to thin the edges a little bit, not much. Mostly to get some of the roughness out. And then add just a little bit in there. And I really should make this brush bigger. There we go. Well, this is another case where there's really nothing very special going on here. I'm just doing more of the same of what I've done. No special techniques or anything. Beyond the fact that I am mostly leaving the lines a lot thicker and heavier. While also generally trying to keep them fairly fluid. because it's tree. It's a living thing. So there are straight-ish lines, but there should never be perfectly straight lines. Not really. It'll start looking unnatural. Now, with something like something man-made, which I don't tend to enjoy drawing. I've never really had a head for architecture and for making a type of architecture sort of thing. I've just never really been very good at drawing that, even worse than people. It's probably because I don't practice at all. But the extent of my ability to draw things like houses is fairly kindergartner-esque in that, you know, here's my house, here's my roof, window, door, here's my house. That tends to be the extent of what I can do. I've kind of despaired over that a little bit because it does very much limit what I can draw. So, you know, I'm restricted to either characters without a background, which is fine for the most part, unless you want to tell a story, which is what art is really supposed to be about. Art is its own type of storytelling. Or I'm stuck with characters in a natural environment such as this. And while I do admit that natural environments are pretty cool to draw, there's only so much you can do with something like that. Because people aren't always going to be found in a natural environment by any means. Oh, well, yeah, that's actually important. Get rid of this, thin that out a little bit. So it's probably, buildings are probably something that I should focus on with attempting to draw. I'm quite certain it will take me a long time before I get any sort of confidence in drawing that. But we can only keep practicing. Over here, I'm not going all the way to the edge because, well, for one thing, it gets a little annoying trying to draw on that fine of an edge. But for another thing, I do tend to do the picture larger than I will actually have it, and then I'll end up trimming it down. So I don't need to go directly all the way to the edge, because there is sort of like an invisible it'll be something like that towards the edges, not top and bottom, but it'll be something like that in the end. And that's just my personal preference of how to take care of the edge cases. Because while I know that I can take this and make it into a new window and avoid the problem over here, or I could actually move this away from there, and that fixes the problem, but I still prefer to have sort of an extra area where I can make it so that the coloring does go all the way to the edge of the picture without having to be extra careful about things. This needs to be sharper. Sharper, sharper, sharper. Jagged, jagged, sharp, sharp, sharp. Did not break clean through or smoothly. Sharp, sharp, sharp. Clean that up. Sharp, sharp, sharp. This I'll have to do. Okay, and then on the other side needs to be also sharp, sharp, sharp. A little bit thinner. Not that much thinner. Jagged edges for jagged splinters. For something that did not break cleanly. And I'll admit that this isn't the best example of splinters. It's kind of the way it moves like that doesn't really work, but don't really feel like fixing that. Just clean this up. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna need to swap my brush out again, I think. The direction this one's pointing in isn't as useful as it could be. It's being fairly useful though. Clean that up. So I'm generally keeping internal lines a little thinner than external lines. Which is about as much as I can do without making it look odd. Well, I mean, I guess it looks a bit odd to begin with, but and you can see, even though I am cutting a lot of it down, I am keeping up that brush stroke, that angled brush stroke look in a lot of the cases, even if I'm making it smaller in some areas. There we go. I do like the look of the sort of calligraphy brush appearance. I think I always have, ever since I was introduced to calligraphy in 5th grade as a sort of extracurricular thing, and then I realized that letters could be art as well. I never really kept up with it outside of grade school, but I did do calligraphy for several years. I don't have any of the proper pens to do it anymore, though. And frankly, I don't think I'll ever get back into it. I do have some books on calligraphy, because I still find the art, and I do consider it an art. I do consider calligraphy very much an art. I don't think I'll ever properly pick it up. But I might end up picking it up enough to actually do a few letters and words in it. It does take a lot of control, from what I recall, for the hands. It takes a little, from what I recall. And I'm not entirely sure that I have that sort of finesse anymore. Most of my pursuits are very, very forgiving. Even in its own way, the painting that I do, which I paint miniatures as a hobby, specifically Warhammer miniatures. I don't play the game. I just tend to buy the monstrous models especially for Warhammer Fantasy. For example, I just finished doing the, I believe it's the Frostheart Phoenix, or Frostspire or something. I think it's Frostheart. I just finished the Frost Phoenix because I decided that it was winter, so I wasn't going to build the Fire Phoenix. So I built the Frost Phoenix, and I'm actually entering it in a local painting competition on the 12th of December. So we'll see how that goes. I'm rather proud of it. And there will probably at some later point there will be pictures of it up on my DeviantArt if anyone is interested in looking at what I have done. And I'll also probably eventually get around to taking pictures of the other pieces that I've done for Warhammer. Let's see, I've done the Manticore, the Chimera, the Dark Elves Dragon, the Light Elves Dragon, the Tomb King Sphinx, I'm pretty sure there's some others in there that I've done, but I can't recall them offhand. I am fairly pleased with the way that the Sphinx and the Chimera turned out. The Manticore's okay, it's a little bland, it's just gray. One of these days I may repaint it. I do not like how the Light Elves Dragon ended up turning out, but it was one of my first, it was actually the second model I ever painted, so I guess I'm kind of justified in not really liking it. This is too wavy up here. Just to go straighter and then jag down like that. So yeah, someday I will either get myself another Light Elves dragon and paint it afresh, paint a new one, so that I could, you know, see exactly how far I've come with the colors. Or I'll just dump the one I've got in green stuff and just repaint the whole thing. I'm kind of disinterested in dumping it in green stuff because I've got the rider glued in place and I don't really like the idea of trying to repaint the rider without being able to, you know, pick him up and move him around. And I really don't feel like trying to break him off. So I'm pretty sure, considering the glue that was used, that I would break the actual model by accidentally gripping one of the rather delicate pieces or knocking one of the rather delicate pieces So yeah, if I ever get the money and I run out of models, run out of interesting models to buy and paint, I may get another Light Elves dragon. Well, High Elves, I think. I think it's the High Elves dragon. And do that all over again, just to see how far I've come. Probably pretty far, considering how large those models are. Okay. Just moving on to the big tree. And again, I'm leaving these lines really thick on purpose, because I'm probably just going to, I'm probably just going to reduce the opacity on these lines just a bit when I color, so that the lines are more of a suggestion as opposed to an actual outline. We'll see how it looks though. All plans at the moment are tentative. Just need to remove some of the jaggedness about it. I'm not entirely sure what type of tree this would be. Definitely not a pine. Pine has a much different structure about it. It's probably some sort of Maybe an oak or a maple. It is no definitive type of tree, that's for sure. One of these days I may actually pay attention and learn how to draw specific types of trees beyond random deciduous and random coniferous. Almost sounds like I'm going to say carnivorous. It's a carnivorous tree. That would be frankly terrifying. A carnivorous tree. Be interesting. Wonder if it would be like a Venus flytrap sort of thing, with, you know, some sort of some sort of sucker. Not a sucker. Trap type, where the unfortunate animal, because it would probably be an animal, not a fly. In order to feed a tree, you'd need something big. Although I could see the leaves being, some of the leaves being like miniature Venus flytrap style leaves, so that any insect or little creature that landed would end up being eaten. I suppose an entire tree worth of leaves such as that could support a significant amount of tree. Not entirely sure how much. And then you'd get that strange deathy smell that off of the tree that you normally get out of, like, the fly traps and the pitcher plants. They have a very interesting odor. Although I'm pretty sure that the odor they use is to attract their fly victims. That's probably how a Venus flytrap style tree would have to work. All of the leaves would have to be sort of either, you know, maybe it crooks like this. You could have sort of pitcher plant style digestion points, and the leaves would be more Venus flytrap style. I'm not entirely sure what you could do to trap and devour larger creatures. So, I mean, well, larger creatures move really fast, generally. So, well, this is taking a decidedly morbid turn. Trying to figure out how a tree could trap and devour a mammalian creature. With that cheerful thought, I think I'm going to call this here and finish up the rest of this tree in the next episode. See you in a bit.